Hello everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Blackmagic Design webinars hosted by Vocas. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for your time and enthusiasm to learn about the Blackmagic products and all of their features that we're going to talk about in the upcoming 2 webinars. Of course, we would have loved to have all of you in our showroom for a more hands-on experience, but do know that you are still welcome to visit us if you would like to try the products and discuss your requirements. Please do contact us to schedule a showroom appointment or a one-on-one video meeting. Just to run you through today's agenda, the first webinar titled Web Broadcasting will be mostly featuring the ATEM Mini family and all of their capabilities, helping you to create the best online and live content. During the second webinar titled Pocket Cinema Camera Family, we'll talk about everything Pocket Cinema Camera related. We'll starting with the development of this successful family of cameras, and of course we'll talk about what makes these little cameras so impressive. To give you an idea about today's time frame, the first session will be starting shortly till about 12 o'clock. After lunch we'll pick it up with the second session starting at 3 till about 4 o'clock. If you have questions during the webinar, please feel free to write them down in the Q&A section so we can answer them during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. And now, last but not least, I would like to introduce your presenter of today, Gabriel Catelli. Gabriel is the regional technical sales specialist for Blackmagic Design in Northern Europe and the Netherlands. He's been in our industry for over 5 years, starting as an audio engineer on small AV event operations in the Manchester region. He moved through the ranks, going from audio engineer to camera operator before becoming a multi-skilled technician and transmission engineer at Manchester United Television. Welcome, Gabriel. It's lovely to have you here with us, and please feel free to take it away and start with the first webinar of today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today, and thank you, Vocas, for hosting this webinar. Without any delay, I'm just gonna open my presentation here, and let's jump right in. So for those who don't know me, my name is Gabriel Catelli. I've been a technical sales specialist for Blackmagic Design for about a year now. And as the introduction says, I used to work for Manchester United TV, and I did a lot of broadcast live production related work, and that gave me a good experience in the field, which is going to be something very similar to what we're going to be looking at today. So today, of course, we're going to be looking at web broadcasting. And there has been an interesting shift in the types of productions being made and the delivery methods for live production content over the last couple of years, which led to the development of products like the ATEM Mini range. This is going to be the main focus of our presentation today. So a quick summary before we start. We're going to have a quick look at web broadcasting trajectory and the interaction between professionals and individuals and companies and audiences. We will discuss some factors that define the ground for web broadcasting and live streaming, which is such a competitive and exciting market. We're going to get to know the most relevant tools of the ATEM Switcher product range and how to use them effectively. And we're going to have a closer look at the ATEM Switcher family range and how can you can combine this with Blackmagic Design solutions and online platforms for productions of any size at any level. And this will be obviously followed by a Q&A. So this is a large market that has been massively grown in popularity over the last 15 years. And thanks to internet technology and the revolution initiated by video sharing, social media, and OTT, it has evolved now into so many forms and accessible for so many devices, which makes it difficult to imagine the actual scenario of communication without it. Looking at some applications here, Blackmagic Design offers a broad range of products which can fit perfectly into this market. Some of our solutions will span from acquisition sources to signal distribution, passing through processing hardware and software, with the aim of facilitating the delivery of high quality content while preserving the creative intent. So each of one of these applications you're looking at now, they will use similar components, if not the same, from source to destination. So towards the end of the presentation, we're going to be looking at some real-life examples regarding that. So we work relentlessly to offer you this, and even under the current circumstances, the pandemic, of course, has shaken the AV industry, and for many has represented a turning point or a shift in their careers. So some of you have taken this time to reflect on the options and reface in front of the new challenges. Work from home and smart working and remote attendance are just a few examples of a new way of working effectively and partaking in private or public events. So the sudden spikes of these activities has just reinforced the need of remote and affordable solutions. Talking about remote access locations, although beneficial to someone, being in a dedicated or prime location is not longer a must for many, and the nature of programs and coverage, as well as multiplication of events, require productions to expand or contract in different areas and adapt rapidly and constantly to the changing circumstances. Meaning that it's imperative to invest wisely in time, resources, and equipment. And we're glad and fortunate to say that neither the pandemic or the fast-changing nature of this market has prevented us from being extremely responsive to our customer needs. And our developers and engineers strive to deliver products and features of outstanding quality by keeping them at a very attractive price point. So let's identify now some influencing factors on the web broadcasting market. For the larger majority of productions, this can be traced back to either profit or service or hobbies activity. And we are aware that for some of you already involved in this business, this will be just a reminder of why and how you decided to make a move. But for people new to this, instead, it can represent the beginning of a new challenge, which requires some planning and strategy. Whether you start from a blank canvas or you're looking at reshaping your content, your current production workflow, it's important to set your intentions and find out which one of the following aspects needs to be established, built, or maintained in order to define your digital engagement. So once you draw a clear picture, we can match those aspects to a subset of tools that our solutions will offer, and then we will show them practically later on in this session. So in terms of recognition, is one of the hardest things to achieve. It's such a busy market, and especially if you're trying to get started or stand out from the crowd. But the ATEM range that we're going to be showing shortly offers tools and features that can make you instantly recognizable, such as logos and titles. Making an impact through creativity is yet another crucial aspect to a successful audience engagement and an overall experience. So this could be achieved by layering animated graphics, lower thirds, keyers, picture-in-picture, which will also work in the direction of diversifying your communication style, making it more striking and appealing. And building a reputation relies on the consistency of your content throughout different platforms, and our web broadcast solutions give you the necessary confidence to broadcast your program, fulfilling industry standards. Some of our models will let you record all your sources while the program is streaming live. And so then you can later repurpose the content for subsequent editing, post-production, uploading. And you can add those extra bits that promote your production and showcase your creativity as it deserves. When your service and production has reached the potential to catalyze an audience, we need to make sure it has enough reach. And this can be achieved by casting a larger net through a variety of platforms, either online or via traditional broadcast infrastructure. So this requires an understanding of the delivery and networking options offered by these solutions. And some of the ATEM mini models, in fact, include onboard video encoders, direct streaming, and as well optional conversion and signal distribution accessories to suit your workflow. So what do we offer to help you with that? Blackmagic Design has always been in the forefront of media technology. And there are some aspects, or they are common to all our product range. They represent the backbone of our solutions, including those designed for web broadcast applications like the ATEM Mini family. In terms of accessibility, the compact form factor, as well as clear and simple buttons layout, will allow these units to sit discreetly in several different production environments and keep the main function controls at your fingertips. So whether you're self-operating or managing a presentation or catering a simple solution for somebody else, no tasks should be very hard to achieve. Looking at usability now, again, we tend to use the same application and menus in our products, such as the ATEM software control, which is used across the whole ATEM range. So if you know how to use one, you can use all of them. In terms of reliability, the signal integrity is well preserved from source to destination. And everything is going to be in very good hands because, in fact, the ATEM Minis process the audio and video feeds with the same precision of our top-of-the-range broadcast switches, with the addition of some great onboard encoding quality, recording options optimized for the most popular live streaming applications and platforms. And something that we take a lot of pride in is the scalability. Most, if not all, of our products are designed to ease the future expansion and addition to your systems, giving you a clear upgrade path. And again, we use open standards, common technologies, and you're not locked into any particular given system. And we take a lot of pride on this flexibility. So finally, let's move now to the part where I will show you some tips and tools on the ATEM Mini. Why can you achieve your goals and make your show more interesting? First, I just want to describe my setup. It's fairly simple. We have the ATEM Mini Pro in the center. And this will manage all of our sources and create a single main signal called program, which is what your audience will see. We're using a USB webcam right now, and this is your typical presentation setup, as I mentioned earlier. The ATEM has 4 inputs on which you can connect all of your sources, and at the moment I have my camera and my PC connected. And I have only these 2 sources at the moment, but adding all the sources is very easy. You could add another PC, for example, and whenever you do that, it will communicate with the ATEM, and the PC will automatically choose its output resolution based on what the ATEM Mini can do. This will be the same for a game console, for example. You can set how the PC HDMI output behaves. You can set it as an extended monitor, or you can duplicate the main screen. Whatever you choose, the ATEM Mini essentially behaves like an additional computer monitor in this case. And connecting cameras obviously is just as easy. As long as the HDMI output of the camera is not higher than 1080p 60, it will appear in the MULTIVIEW almost instantly. Another great feature of the ATEM Mini that's important to mention at this point is it has internal standards converted on all of its inputs. In other words, it will convert pretty much any supported resolution and match it to the program resolution set on the ATEM software. This means you don't necessarily need to replace everything in your setup or buy new gear for your studio, since the ATEM is so flexible with the sources it will accept. So, for example, if you have a camera that's only 720p, no problem. And that's yet another great aspect of the ATEM Minis, and generally our products. They will allow you to scale up your production as you grow your setup according to your needs. So if you, for example, start with an older action camera, whenever your audience grows and you can reach more people, you can invest into some high-end cameras, and you're going to have no problem by connecting this to your ATEM Mini. So we're almost ready to start the demo now, and this is how simple and fast it is to configure everything. But let's go a bit further now and have a look at the ATEM software control. Before I start to show you the software control, I want to remember you that the software control is just a remote application. So it just remotely controls the hardware. All the processing is going to be happening in the hardware, not in the software. So the software doesn't handle any of the processing. So let's have a look at the ATEM software now. This is the main switcher page. And this is one of the ATEM software is very useful for managing your ATEM settings and any other refining settings that you might need to set up according to what you're trying to achieve. This is divided in 4 pages. You have the switcher page, which is what you're looking at right now, where you select your transition types and effects. You have the media page, where you're going to be looking at your assets, or you can load in logos or titles or anything like that. We have the audio page, where you can manage all of your sources, and your audio sources and effects and levels. And we have the camera page that will help you to control any Blackmagic cameras that you have connected to the switcher. But today we're going to be staying on the switcher page because this is the main focus of this training. So here you find everything you need to control your program output and set the effects and manage your production. On the left side here you have your sources. You have your program and preview bus. In the middle, you have your transition settings and styles. And on the right-hand panel, you're going to have everything that's related to audio effects and recording and streaming your program if you're looking to output. So looking at the source side, using one of the program buttons will switch you directly to that source without any transition. And this is what we call a cut. So if I press on camera 1 here, it cuts directly to camera 1. But the preview bus allows you to select a source that you're going to be putting on air next. Means you can prepare your next move or your next effect by looking at the MULTIVIEW output, where you can see your program and preview and all of your sources as well. So whenever I press a source on my preview bus, like camera 1, you see that nothing happened there. And if I'm looking at my MULTIVIEW, my camera 1 will be displaying on preview on the preview window, and my camera will be showing a green light, meaning your camera is being looked at and might be next on the transition. So whenever I press a transition here, my transition style is set to a mix. If I press auto, you have a nice cross dissolve there. That will take me to my next point, which is transition styles. Above the transition controls, we have a few transition style options. So if I open my transition palette here, let's look at some interesting stuff that you can do. These transitions will help you to keep your program more interesting and engaging. Of course, some of them will be reminiscent of the 80s, but I don't see why not using them. You have plenty of options here, and this can make your program look more professional and diversify your production as well. So for example, if I press on camera 1 now, and I select wipe, which is equivalent to what's selected here, I'm set to a diamond shape. I can press auto, and then you can see a diamond shape transition. Or even I can use my transition bar here, and I can perform this transition as slowly as I push with the mouse up. So let's say I put a diagonal transition, diagonal wipe here. If I push this up, sorry, I should select my camera 1. If I push this up, you can see a diagonal wipe going as I push my mouse. Or you can simply press auto so you can have a seamless transition. The transition rate is about the time that will take from cuts from one source to the other, and you can make this slower or faster. So transition controls obviously make the program look better and more interesting. But one thing that's missing here is nobody knows who I am now, because if I switch to my camera, I don't have any name tags on. And that's another thing that you can add to your program to make your production more interesting. So let's have a look what the downstream keyer palette, which is related to this downstream keyer control here. So if I look at the downstream keyer, I have my field source looking at the media player. But I need first to check what's on my media player. So if I show you my media player here, you can see that I loaded in on my media library image that has a lower third with a white stripe with my name on it. And everything else on this picture is pitch black. So the easiest way to create graphics for the ATEM is to use a picture that has a great content of black or black background. Because if I go back to my switcher, I can be looking at my field source and media player 1, and I can select my key source to black, meaning that this will replace every black portion of that picture. So if I press Auto here, which is create a nice transition to put this on there. When I press Auto, you can see that I have a name tag there, lower third. And if I cut to my camera, everybody knows who I am now because my name is there. Now, this is the easiest way to create graphics. But that will take me to my next subject, which is another great feature of ATEMs is they understand transparency on your graphics. So many modern graphic formats allow for transparent background, which will make your downstream keyer look better. You could use the picture with the black portion mode to create graphics, but if you have a picture with transparency, that will definitely look way more accurate. So let's load a graphic in here. Come back to my media pool. I have a graphic with transparency here. I load into my media pool, and then I load this into my media player. And now what I'm going to do, instead of keying the black contents of the picture out, I'm going to put a media player key, meaning that the ATEM will analyze that picture and decides that that picture has content that should be transparent. So once I put this on there, you can see that I have a nice Blackmagic logo with a bit of a lower thirds. That could be my website, that could be anything, or that could be a hashtag or anything that is related to your show. And this is a great way to put graphics. Now, another great thing about that is whenever you have the ATEM software, sorry, actually, whenever you have Photoshop installed on your computer, if you install the ATEM software, after that, the ATEM will automatically install ATEM export plugin on Photoshop. That means you can create logos on Photoshop directly, and rather than exporting them out, loading into the media library and finding to the media player, Photoshop can directly export to a given slot on the media library and then the media player at the same time. So this scenario is perfect if you're working with a team, because you can have multiple multiple instances of this software here. So you can have one person working on the media page, you can have another person working on the audio page, and as long as they're in the same network, they will be controlling the same switcher. So you could have a person who's as dedicated and created graphics and allocating them in the media player, and all you need to do is to drop the graphic in, for example. So for this example here, I'm going to just drop a Blackmagic logo here, and I drop them into my media player, and I'm going to keep that on across my program. So this is very practical, very exciting, but now I want to introduce another way to key graphics in. And probably one of the coolest effects of the ATEM Mini, one of the most powerful too, is the advanced chroma keyer. But the advanced chroma keyer is part of the upstream keyer. So again, another great option here is like you can keep your downstream keyer going and you use your upstream keyer for something else. In this case, I'm gonna use the advanced chroma keyer. And the advanced chroma keyer is something that you will find on the most advanced switches in the line of the ATEM. So you can find this on the Constellation 8K, you can find this on the Television Studio Pro 4K, and this is a very, very useful tool. A quick example of a chroma keyer, of course, is whenever you have a weather TV forecast. So the person will have a black, a green, or a single color screen behind them, and that screen will get replaced by a map where the presenter can show you where, like, what the weather is going to be looking at, like in each region of that map. However, you can see here today that I don't have any green screen behind me. So let's find a different way to use this effect creatively. So the advanced chroma keyer is called advanced chroma keyer because you have a lot of settings that you can change to achieve a very, very, very sharp key. And one of the most important is a chroma sample, where you will select a particular color or a portion of your source. So if I had my camera set up here with a green screen behind me, I could select a big portion of the green screen, and that will be looking at my chroma sample, and my chroma sample will replace everything that's in that portion. So your key doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, and that's why this is called advanced chroma keyer. Today I selected already my chroma sample because I have a video running on the background, and this video has an animated lower third. So let's see how this works. So if I bring this video in, and if I cut to my camera 1, I put my upstream keyer to air, and you can see that I have animated graphics here. And I can keep my downstream keyer there, with my Blackmagic logo. And this is how easy it is to create something animated if you're using the chroma keyer with this particular concept. Now, the advanced chroma keyer obviously is a very powerful tool. It can be used in different ways. But if you want to key graphics in and you're using external software like here to record graphics or Pro Presenter, these applications will feature the same methods to put graphics on there. And again, as I say, the advantage to use this particular concept is you can keep your downstream keyer on there and have dedicated animated graphics for other things like titles or full screen animations at the same time, for example. The only drawback here is that we will require an input. So as you saw here earlier, I needed to swipe on my computer to bring that video in, but that could be a different input showing graphics with a green background, and they will have the same effect. Now, again, this will take an input, but the good thing is if you have an ATEM Mini Extreme, having extra inputs is not going to be a problem because you're going to have 8 inputs in there. And that takes me to the point mentioning as well that with the ATEM Mini Extreme, you're going to have 4 upstream keyers and 4 chroma keyers. So again, super powerful. Now, looking professional is one thing, but keep your audience attentive is other. And the next effect I'm going to show is the one that is the most intricate one, and that will allow you to overlay one source over another, which is picture-in-picture. So picture-in-picture has on the ATEM Mini, it has a preset. So if I press my preset on here, you can see I'm in that corner of the screen, but I need to take my Blackmagic logo off. And there you go. And I can put this anywhere I want on my screen using the preset. But if you don't want to use the preset, there's plenty of settings to play with. So I'm on my DVE palette, which generates the picture-in-picture. And this is taking my upstream keyer as well. So basically all these options here are part of your upstream keyer. So the cool thing about this is I can put anywhere on my screen by dragging values here, and I can put any size as well. So I think this is quite small. I'm going to bring it down, and there you go. You can see my DVE here, picture in picture. And that was very helpful whenever you're doing a static presentation, because this will keep your audience attentive, as you can make eye contact as you talk at the same time. Now, one thing that's very important to note here is you see that I changed the values to move this around or to increase the size. But another thing that I can do as well, I can mask a portion out of it. So if I go on my mask, put a value there, and then I input a value on my right side. Sorry. There you go, I have a square DVE. Now, something that's very important to mention now is if you press any of the presets on the hardware, which I'm going to be showing you now, my size values and position values will be reset. You can see that my mask still there, but the size and the position will be reset. And that's been put together like this to make sure that your DVE is always on the edge of the screen. So if you increase the DVE too much, you might be out of the screen, for example. And you can create this any kinds. You can add shadows to your box, you can add borders, and you can even create animations by setting keyframes here. I'm not going to do this because we don't have this much time. But if you want to keep your size and position and or even an animation and apply this with one button, you can create a macro to do that, and that's the easiest way to achieve it. So let me just show you how easy it is to put a DVE on air. If I go back into my presentation here, you can see that you can press any of those buttons and that will switch your DVE from presets anytime. However, if I don't press those and I switch my DVE on, I'm gonna have my DVE on the same size that I predefined on the software before. Now, and that takes me to my next point, which is ATEM Mini Extremes. And Extremes ISO, they will have SUPERSOURCE. And basically what SUPERSOURCE is a DVE on steroids. So you can put up to 4 picture-in-picture boxes at the same time. And this will have the same amount of control that you will have with the single DVE. So you can resize these boxes, you can put any type of border or shadow. And this is great for, I think, for example, gaming. Here in this example, you can see there's a gaming competition, and you want to see all the players reacting to what's happening in the game at the same time. And that is very used on news as well. Normally in news, you have 3 boxes. You have the presenter in the middle, one argument on one side of the argument on the left, one side of the argument on the right. And again, on top of this, you still have 2 DVEs that can be used to transitions and create extra boxes if you're using the ATEM Mini Extreme or Extreme ISO. Now, I think we are in a good point now, and we know how to create graphics. We know how to create animated graphics. We know how to put our picture-in-picture on air, but we didn't touch our image of the cameras yet. And color balance is something that is extremely important to your production. So whenever you're using the ATEM with our cameras, they will communicate between each other to help to create any type of image that you want. And you can apply color correction there. You can do many things by looking at this part of the software. So this is the camera control page. And looking from top to bottom here, first thing you're going to have is tile information. So tile information serves you in terms of you know what's on there or what's on preview. So as we're looking at my PC right now, you can see my PC is on there. But if I put my DVE on my picture-in-picture, you can see my camera one is also on air there. Now, the most exciting feature from this is the color wheel based. DaVinci Resolve style, color correction tool. If I expand this, I can have a separated view for lift, gamma, gain. And the way that works, if you're going to click and drag here, I'm going to put my DV on there again. And if you click and drag this, you're going to start to affect your image. So basically, I'm going to do something extreme right now, so you can just see how this works. You can see my picture getting more yellow there, yellow, 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 orange. And if I bring it back, I'm almost back to normal now. But this is extremely useful if you want to create a particular look to your picture. And again, you can even input separated values here in your color channels, such as luminance, red, green, blue. This button will reset all your values. And you can even play with the contrast, hue, and saturation here. So for example, if I want to look a bit like a zombie, I can put this on. Or if I want to look completely black and white, I can remove the saturation from my image. And I can switch between RGB and white RGB. So again, this is a very, very powerful tool. And it can help you to create cinematic looks live if you're using something like a pocket cinema camera or Ursa. And this is great to create a very professional look in your production. So let me close this now. And again, here, and this will help from a distance if you're using a Blackmagic camera, of course. This is all exclusive if you're using a Blackmagic camera with your ATEM switcher. So first here we have the gain, but this will be equivalent to the ISO on your camera. So if I bring my picture-in-picture again, and if I start increasing my gain, you can see my picture's getting white, 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 overexposing heavily. And if I press down, I can be back where I was before. This is the equivalent to your shutter speed. And this will control the shutter speed of a camera. Of course, I'm not going to change this now because I don't want to look strange. Next, we have white balance, and this will be your color temperature. As I have quite a white light in front of me, I put my color temperature quite down. But if I increase these, I can have a warmer picture. Coming next, we have your iris settings. So this cross arrow here, and with a red dot in the middle, you can click and drag this to open or close your iris. So for example, if I click and drag more and more, I'm gonna have an image that's very overexposed. Bring it down, I can have something close to normality here. Another amazing feature we have here now is if you have cameras that have if you have lenses that support motorized zoom, and then they work with our cameras, you can zoom in and out by clicking and dragging on this one. And this is a very powerful tool because if you're far away and you want to control your production by zooming in and out and to create a better shot, you don't even need to go closer to your camera. And this is worth for all of this page. This is all very useful, so you don't need to be coming back and forth. And you can control your production from a certain distance, especially if you are one-man band. This is going to be extremely powerful in terms of your production. Last thing I want to show you here is the focus wheel. And the way this works, this is your manual focus. So if I click and drag here, you can see that I am out of focus right now and my background is on focus. However, if I want to get in focus quickly, all I need to do is to press automatic focus, and you're going to see me back in focus again. So this was the camera page. And again, super powerful tool, especially if you are operating everything on your own. So now it looks like we got to a good point now. We have our image sorted, we have our picture-in-picture graphics, and we know how to do everything like that. But we want to have a quick look at the audio page with you for a second. First, I need to say that the ATEM Mini can accept audio in different ways. The simplest one is to use the camera built-in microphones. So if I click, but in most of the cases, the camera microphones will be omnidirectional, and that's not the best option to capture sound, because this will capture the sound around you and the room sound as well. And this, like background noise, this can be normally very destructive. But you can connect a directional shotgun mic, for example, to your camera or to the analog port, as I am doing now. So again, this audio page is super standard. You have your faders for levels, you have your panning, you have your on and off, and you have your gain pots for analog inputs, and you have your trim for your camera sources. So one thing that's important to mention now, that this is what you get with all ATEMs, but if you're using an ATEM Mini, for example, or the Mini Extreme, or any of the most advanced ones like the Television Studio Pro or the Constellation AK, this will include Fairlight Audio Engine. And this is a recent development because it's present on our most advanced switches. So that will give you a 6-band equalizer that will allow you, for example, to remove frequencies from your microphones if they're too harsh, or to make the presenter voice a bit warmer. So let's have a quick look at this now. If I bring my, click on the wrong place. If I bring my EQ here, you can see that I have a really nice DAW style 6-band equalizer. So let's say there's a car parked in front of my window now and it has a really low humming noise. I can do here is turn on my first band, put this to 100 Hertz, and then you have a high pass filter there that will help you to remove any low and unwanted noises. And you can use this, for example, as if you have a really harsh microphone, you can cut a little bit here, or even add warmth by increasing or decreasing your mid-range. So again, a very powerful tool, and this avoids you to having to use external things. But we have more to show in terms of Fairlight Audio, which is our dynamic processors. So you can have up to 4 dynamic processors at the same time, and this is what it looks like. Very common as well to people that come from the audio environment. And for example, my voice is really loud here. This microphone is very sensitive and it's nearly peaking. So if I want to keep this under a certain threshold, I can turn my compressor on and I can change the threshold around. Of course, my voice is very quiet now, but then I can make up some gain here. And you're gonna have a very compressed audio, so you can keep the same level. For example, if the person talks too quiet and then too loud, and you can use all these dynamic processors at the same time. You could use an expander, you can use a gate or a limiter if you want to have more control over this particular audio source. So these two are the most powerful features of the Fairlight engine. But one thing that I should have mentioned during the camera part is cameras from different manufacturers process the internal video in a different way. And that will be the case, for example, if you want to match a Blackmagic camera with a third-party camera, you're going to realize that the color science is behind these different cameras is different. And that's why it's great to have access to the camera control page, so you can try to change the color aspects to match to any other additional cameras. With audio, you might have the same difference in processing the audio internally in the cameras. So for example, if I'm using an external microphone on the analog ports the way I'm doing now, sometimes it is the case where your video processing is happening in the camera, or for example, you cross-converting or down-converting different video standards in the ATEM, and that's going to create some delay in frames. So that will affect your lip sync on your final program output. So a thing we have here to combat that is that in our analog port, we are capable to add delay, and this is expressed in frames. So I can add delay in frames to my analog channels to make sure that my audio is not arriving before the video, and if it is, all I need to do is to keep on increasing my delay in frames until I have correct limp sync. And this was the audio page. So once you have all your settings ready and you feel like your EQ looks good, your dynamics looks good, it's very unlikely that you're going to be coming back and forth into the software to deal with this. So what we're looking at here is the top of the panel, and this will be the way to control audio settings from the panel. So for example, on the top row there, you have my both of my analog inputs, and what I can do with that is to turn on or off, and if I press the arrows up or down, this will change the values on my faders. So if you have any audio sources going too hot, and if you think you don't want to mess with your EQ or your dynamic processors, all you need to do is to press the arrow down and you will remove some volume out of that. Underneath on the other row, we have the audio sources that are coming from your input sources. So that could be your camera or your computer. And here we have AFV, which stands for audio follows video, meaning that whenever you change to that source, the audio will be switched on automatically. If you change out, the audio will be switched off. You have reset, which will reset all your settings, including your faders. And you have on and off, of course, and your arrows up and down. And this will be the fastest way to change your levels on the ATEM by only using the panel. So moving down to our HDMI output, there are three possible outputs, of course, with the ATEM minis, but the HDMI is the most flexible one. So you can configure that to output any of the inputs. So you have like your inputs 1, 3, and 4 there. Or you can look at your MULTIVIEW, which is a very important monitoring style because you can see all your sources, you can see your program and preview. Or you can be looking at your program. As I'm presenting to you now and I want to see what I'm doing, I have a big screen next to me and I'm monitoring my program. There's no need for me to monitor my MULTIVIEW because I don't have that many sources, and I'm just going to be switching between camera and software. Now, a great feature for gaming that you can change in the software is the HDMI 1 direct option, which means it will be a pass-through from HDMI input 1 directly to your HDMI output without any latency, meaning that that's perfect for gamers, because if you are streaming with a picture-in-picture, for example, on your streaming outputs, like the USB or the Ethernet ports, you're still going to be looking at your program. However, if you want to monitor your game just for yourself, you can have that set to the HDMI 1 direct option, and you're going to have no delay or no latency between your input and output. So again, very, very powerful for gaming. And there will be other applications for that as well, I'm sure. So a quick note here, the ATEM Mini Extremes have 2 HDMI outputs, so they can be configured to do anything they want. Or you can have different multi-views, for example, depending on the type of show you're running. And this can be obviously controlled via software or hardware, like I'm showing you now. And that takes me to my last point on this practical session, which is the greatest features of the ATEM Mini range is the webcam output. You can plug into a PC or Mac, and the program output will appear as a webcam signal directly into any video conferencing or streaming software. So this is basically plug and play, and this is what I'm using now to talk to you. So my presentation is coming into the ATEM Mini, and from the ATEM Mini, you can see my program. So I'm basically connected via USB-C, and if I go on Zoom or Skype or anything like that, what comes out of the program of the ATEM Mini will be recognized as a webcam, and it's completely plug and play. So I can switch between sources here, add my picture-in-picture, and you can see this is very easy to do and very powerful. Completely plug and play, no drivers required. Now, on the Pros and the Extreme versions, you have also a very powerful option to use with your USB-C port, which is recording. You can you can record your program out by connecting SSD or storage device directly to that port. So if you're not using that port to stream, you can do that on your Pros or your Extremes. But now the ISO takes even further. You can record your program, and all of your video and audio inputs will be recorded as well. And we'll create a DaVinci Resolve project that will remember all of your transitions and effects during your show. So that means you can modify the live after the fact. Excuse me. So again, this is an amazing pre-production device, because you can create multicam projects very easily as well. If you don't want to switch between your show, it's fine. You just use your ISO to record all your inputs. You end up with DaVinci Resolve file, and you have a multi-camera project there. And we know that creating multicam projects can take a lot of time. So that saves you miles of work. And finally, one of the main interesting features of the ATEM Mini Pros and Extremes is the stream encoder, because these models have a RTMP encoder that can send your program to any compatible streaming platform, and that only requires you to have internet access. So via your Ethernet port, you can input your streaming credentials in the software and stream directly from the box, no computer needed. And if you want to control the unit at the same time with the Ethernet port, all you need to do is connect this into a router and get a connection back from a network switch, for example. And once you have this network switch in the internet, all you need to do is to configure them in DHCP mode, and they'll get access to the web almost with no configuration. So you simply copy and paste your streaming key in the software, and you're ready to go live. So that's how easy it is to use that. And the last thing I want to mention on this slide before I switch to the next one is we announced that now you can use the USB-C port to be used like with a wired phone tethering plugging in your phone, and you can activate the option and you can start streaming directly using the phone internet. So if you have good 4G or 5G, you don't need to have hardwire internet anymore. You can simply connect your phone to USB-C port and start streaming directly from there. So how amazing is that? Now let's have a look at a few solutions and workflows, because of course we have many products, and it might be challenging for some of you to identify what setup is going to be the ideal one for you, how you're going to fit a workflow there. But let's have a quick look of the live streaming components first. So this is live streaming applications will differ, of course, but for different purpose, and they will have different target audiences, but they normally share all these four components, which they can categorize as such. So you have your video sources. These include cameras, computer output, media players, and this is essentially the video content that we want the audience to see. Excuse me. You have your capture device or interface. This will be the hardware used to connect your video source to your computer for streaming. So in this case now I'm using the ATEM Mini, but this could be a web presenter or any of the capture and playback cards. You have your software layer or streaming engine, and this is where the encoding of a video signal will happen to turn it into a streaming friendly format. And this can be either done via software using computer resources like processing power, or via hardware using something like the ATEM Mini Pro. And last is the streaming platform, which is where the video will be streamed, and this is where the audience will see whatever the content is you're creating. And of course, the size and number of products will generally scale up as you progress from web conferencing or to webinars and webcasting using larger setups. So let's have a quick look at web conferencing, because this is the simplest way to go live. So here we have the Web Presenter HD that has recently been announced, and it represents a simple way to plug and play using an SDI source over USB-C and then or Ethernet. And this features a professional hardware streaming engine for direct streaming via Ethernet directly, so same as the ATEM Mini Pros and Extremes. So you can stream directly to your streaming platform. And alternatively, you can use the UVC technology, which means using the USB-C out in the software like Skype or Zoom, and it will recognize your signal as a 1080p webcam source. Again, no drivers required, and your web conferencing or presentation will be up and running anywhere in a minute. Going back to our ATEM Mini, this is an example that is a very basic setup, but it's very similar to what I'm using now. So we have a couple of sources attached to the ATEM Mini connected via USB-C to a laptop. And this is very similar to the Web Presenter initial example. In this case, the unit works in 1080p using the onboard encoder, so you can stream directly to the streaming platform. In this example here is Twitch. And we have the benefits of mixing transitions, effects like picture-in-picture, everything that I showed you earlier in the training part. And again, this is ideal for educational training institutions as well as esports, gaming, and they will demand a very similar setup. And this also offers phone tethering with a mobile device. So you, like the ATEM Mini Pro and Extreme, you can stream using 5G or 4G from your mobile phone data. Next example really shows the good use of the ATEM Mini. All the peripheral and connections are here. You have the USB-C being used for external SSD recording, the Ethernet port for streaming and control the unit, 3.5mm jack analog audio input. So important to mention now that these inputs can be set to mic or line, and you can bring external additional audio sources like a mixing desk, for example. And this is great for live stream production with the intent of subsequent repurpose of the content. Think about training tutorials, seminars, sport events, highlights. And the ATEM Mini Pro ISO can in fact record all of your sources and your program and then generate a DaVinci Resolve project where you can jump right into it and get even more creative. Okay, we have seen how easy it is to really get started with those powerful features. And we know you want to be ahead of the game, and pretty soon you'll be asking what's next and where do I go from here. So let's have a look at some more complex setups right now. As I mentioned earlier, by combining a number of additional products, you can build a very interesting workflow and diversify your services. In this example here, we have introduced the ATEM Streaming Bridge, which allows you to convert the ATEM Mini ISO or Pro or Extreme Ethernet output to an SDI or HDMI. So that can be directly through a simple router, meaning that you can distribute your program signal to a different site or area of the building using a pre-existing Ethernet infrastructure, and then distribute that to other devices or perhaps another monitor or HyperDeck Mini recorder or an external encoder, all of that simultaneously. But then you can also forward a port to the streaming bridge and connect that to the internet. So yes, you can have your program now having global reach. Perhaps you can even become a remote feed for another ATEM Mini Pro sitting in a different location around the world. And you can duplicate this setup over and over again, and you can basically create a global network of ATEM Mini Pros. So again, very powerful feature there. Can be done via using internal network infrastructure. If you have a big building and you want to take the signal to another part of the building, or you can even forward the port on the network to the internet. And your ATEM streaming bridge will find your ATEM Mini Pro or Extreme anywhere around the world. This is a more conventional setup for people that are used to work on broadcasts, but there are more demanding productions that will require to deliver in higher resolution. And in this case, we are using here Ultra Studio Mini 4K, which is one of our many capture and playback cards. And this will allow you to capture Ultra HD program coming from the Television Studio Pro 4K to your computer, and then in this case, the streaming software layer, OBS or Restream, where you can control many aspects of your incoming feed, like bitrate, resolution, encoding, and recording codec. Basically, your gateway to a stream platform, but in this example here, we need to remember that the encoding will be happening in the software, and that will take processing power. Sorry, excuse me. So to conclude this section, we like to show you a matrix of ATEM mini models, which you can have been using throughout this presentation. And I want you to invite you now to take a snapshot so you can refer back to them whenever you're exploring our website or looking for what you might be interested in acquiring for your production. And I'm, of course, not going to discuss this slides or for each model and each difference, but you can see by having a quick look at this how models differ and what additional features you will get getting these different models. Finally, some real-life user cases, just to offer you some context on what we spoke about today. I'm going to fly through that because I know this has been very long. But first user case here is the Gadget Show. The ATEM Mini Pro helped the show to stay on screens during lockdown. And usually the program is made with an OB truck with a team of 20 plus people. And a key part of the show is for the presenters to react to pre-recorded segments that has just been shown to viewers. And the ATEM Mini Pro was used to throw VTs and graphics and stings into monitors around the studio. So it was used to host the Wallop of the Week, which is a segment that takes place on Zoom. Our next example here is Darude. This is an electronic music producer. He's called Vio Virtanen, also known as Darude, and the most famous track, Sandstorm. Using an ATEM Mini Pro and a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema K, he streamed a weekly lockdown series online, and he was using Twitch as his platform. He's from Finland, and his internationally acclaimed artist established 3 weekly live streams, attracting more than 250,000 people live views across 35 streams collectively. And since his launch in March, the highest single stream has attracted 12,000 views alone. Our next example here is GBMC Healthcare System, which is a 342-bed medical center that provides acute and subacute care, and they handle more than 23,000 admissions and 52,000 emergency room visits annually. So in addition to internal town hall meetings, they partner with Focal Point Productions and also began to stream frequent Facebook live sessions, future clinicians and hospital leadership talking about timely topics. Last one here on this slide is Playing for Change. This organization brings together a diverse a mix of musicians from all music genres, backgrounds, performing at their local environment. So the concerts are broadcast via Playing for Change YouTube channel, which has more than 2 million subscribers. And this is an international foundation created to connect people through music and have been powered with the ATEM Mini Pro and Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras 6K. Our last example here, one of the most important one. Last year, California-based Emmys nominee was used the ATEM Mini Pro. And the California-based nominees for the last year's ceremony was streamed live into a telecast with a kit built around the Pocket 6K and the ATEM Mini Pro. And the scope of the event was looking to do is really ambitious. They have more than 100 nominees. So very little margin to go wrong. And all these systems worked perfectly. So basically what you're looking at here is kits building in a warehouse, and they will send this to the house of the nominees. And they can interact with the main show from their houses with some amazing quality. And that takes us to the end of this presentation. So it's been a long journey today. We have discussed a number of topics regarding web broadcasting, live streaming, and how the market behaves at the moment. I give you a picture why this is so important and relevant these days, and also offer advice how you can approach this business and select the right tool based on your goals. And then we had a quick practical session with the amazing features you can find on the ATEM Mini family range. And we conclude the overview with some uses of production designs, and to get you started and so you can understand how you can expand and grow your setup. I would like to say thank you very much for today. If you need any resources, you can go to our website, you can download manuals, or even if you are a developer, you can look at your software develop kit for the ATEM switches, and maybe you'll be able to create some really cool third-party products. The floor is open to questions now, and I'll be happy to answer all your questions. But if I can't have answer now, you can come back to me on an email, pre-sales-ema, blackmagicdesign.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabriel, for your time and your extensive presentation. So if you don't mind, I would like to start with a couple of questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
The first one is from Richard, and he starts with a compliment, actually. I'd like to start off by thanking Blackmagic for innovating the market. You've really blown us away with the feature set in the ATEM Extreme range, coupled with the Cinema Pockets. For the future, can we expect an affordable solution for intercom and talkback via this platform?
Well, I cannot talk about any products that might be released in the future. However, we already increased functionality by adding the headphone output, which is a great feature. And what the headphone output allows you to do is basically you can preview some of the audio that's not going out to air, and only the person next to the switcher will be having a look at that. But we do have talkback solutions. Of course, they are at different price ranges, maybe for different types of production. But I'm pretty sure Blackmagic will be looking at something like this in the near future. Yeah,
exactly. Richard asked regarding the EF lenses with motorized zooms you talked about in the presentation. Do you have any suggestions on what brands and what models do work with the motorized zoom?
Right, so Panasonic has a couple, and Olympus has a couple if you're using the Pocket 4K, which is a Micro Four Thirds. However, you can use the CN EF lenses, which are cinematic lenses, but again, it is a really different price point from people that will be working with this. However, if you can afford the CF lenses, and you will need the grip as well to communicate with the motorized part of it, they will work. But again, the most affordable way to do that is to use the Pocket 4K. And I mean, I don't have the list in front of me right now, but if you email me, I can send you all the motorized lenses that will perform zoom in and out, and very, very, very powerful, useful to have this.
For sure, yes, exactly. If you want to put it on a place where it's not easily reachable, then it would be a nice feature to
Exactly.
have. This is an off-topic question. Will Blackmagic Design redesign the MIDI control portion of the software so we can link any MIDI controller to audio, mixer and or video section? For example, the Mackie controller mode is unusable now without heavy MIDI modification and separate apps. Also, the MIDI loop issue is still there, an IAC loop. I don't know if we can answer this on the here, or do you need to write an email or?
Yeah, the best option is to write an email, because we can probably offer you some kind of advice regarding that. But I'm pretty sure that the Mackie protocol will work with a lot of MIDI interfaces there in the markets now. And again, I cannot talk about any future products or anything because I'm not part of the developer team. And normally we find out about these things closer to the time. So I guess the best way to do that is to write to pre-sales-EMEA and at blackmagicdesign.com, and I'll get someone that's more versed into this area to give you a proper solution.
Understood. Richard, which were the first two questions, were also from Richard, but he is asking if you record an ISO multicam project, how can you best ensure to have a single project? If you disconnect the SSD in between breaks, a new project is created. So he wants to make one big project in multiple takes.
Right. This is a hard question, actually, because I think, yeah, if you're gonna be stopping, whenever you stop your transmission or your recording or streaming, you're gonna create different projects there. So the best way is to do everything in one go. But I know for some people this will be hard because the files can be big, and you need to have a hard drive that'll be coping with the speeds of writing, and they need to have a constant speed that is equivalent to the data rates that'll be coming out of that. So again, I don't know how to advise on this one, because if you disconnect your drive, or even if you stop your recording, that will create a different project file.
Yep. Okay, that sounds clear. Also, another question is, at what bitrate do you currently stream? Or is there any bitrate that you know?
Right now?
That's the question. Oh, if you would, example, go online to YouTube or that kind of stuff, what would a normal bit rate be for that kind of use case?
Right, this is a question that's tricky for me because I've never have looked at that properly. But I guess you'll be selecting between 8 or 10 bit, because any higher than that will be impossible to do because data rates will be too big.
Yeah, and be assured that you have a connection over cable and not over Wi-Fi, that kind of stuff. That's not a question, but the last thing I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned that the URSAs can be connected to the ATEM mini line as well, and that you can control them. But I think that there's a small part of the puzzle there, because the ATEMs the minis are with HDMI, and the URSAs are with SDI. So can you talk about that?
So for that, you're gonna need the micro bidirectional converter HDMI to SDI. So that can be used even on the inverse side if you want to connect pocket cameras to your SDI switcher. That gives you that possibility. Or even you could use this to extend a cable, because we know HDMI cables cannot be too long, and if you try to go too far, that will cause you problems. So you can use 2 of these converters. You convert to SDI, get a long cable, HDMI again, and go back into your camera, and that will keep all the functionality. One thing is important to mention is it is just worth for URSAs to ATEM minis. So URSAs to HDMI switches, and from SDI switches to pocket cinema cameras. The micro studio and studio cameras are not supported yet by this converter.
Okay, good to know. Another question just came in. What is the latency when sending from ATEM Mini Extreme to the streaming bridge? Use it as a gateway to a projector.
Right, so the latency there will be between 2 and 3 frames, so about half a second, something like that. I guess if you go through the internet, it could be more. But if you are the internal network infrastructure, for example, with the same building, you have a massive network infrastructure, that could be a bit quicker than that. But I don't have exact figures to give you, but the recommendation is between 2 and 3 frames.
Yeah, a couple of frames. Okay, and another question, who can we best talk to? The developers at Blackmagic, but if they would write an email to you, then you will pass it through, right?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Gabriel, and we'll end this session for now, and we'll see you in a couple of hours for the next one regarding the Pocket Cinema line. So, thank you.
Okay. Have a good break. See you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.